In honor of it being February, the month of love, we are going to be reading romance for a week, or maybe over a week. We'll see what happens with this vlog, but we are going to be starting kind of controversially, because if you recognize my outfit, I just filmed my February TBR video, and the last book that I picked to add to my TBR list was actually Leave Me Behind by K.M. Moranova. This is an incredibly controversial romance book. I've heard very, very mixed things. Either people really love the dark romance aspects of this book, or they hate this book viscerally. And I think it's because there's a plot twist. I don't know what it is, but I've heard that there's a crazy plot twist that everyone, again, either loves or hates, and that makes or breaks the book for them. So, is starting out this video on a controversial note the smart idea? Maybe not. I'm here for the mess, I'm here for the drama, and I want to know what this book is about and what the hype is. So I'm going to read you the synopsis real quick. It says, "Together our broken pieces can do anything. Nell Gallows is the sole survivor of an elite Dark Forces squad riot after a detrimental attack 2 years ago. Unsurprisingly, she's been put up as the top candidate for the Special Ops Team Malum, the squad that goes where no one else will or can. There's only one problem. Malum blames their one casualty from Patagonia mission on the riot squad. So what is Nell to do when she finds herself on a plane to California on her way to a sure death sentence? A one-night stand. Only she finds out too late that the dark and mysterious man she solely wanted as a fling is not only her new her comrade. Why did I say compadre? Her new comrade, but also the one she dreaded meeting most, her immediate superior and untouchable devil in the field, Bones. He's hell on earth, cruel and unforgiving, but most of all, he hates Nell, and he makes sure that she knows it. And yet she finds herself unwilling to leave his side after he's unable to get to the evac point when a mission goes awry. She stays behind with the devil and the secrets he keeps, and they'll only have each other to trust when no faith is left." So, I'm intrigued. Can you not blame me for being intrigued? Like, it's either gonna go really good or really bad, and you're gonna be with me for the process. So, welcome to today's reading vlog. We're starting out with this book, and actually, spoiler here, I got about 30 pages in last night. So I'm about a 10th of the way, actually I meant 44, whatever. A 10th of the way through this pretty short fantasy book, romance book. I'm like glitching out. I'm sorry. Nothing is computing up here. So far, we have met both Nell's and Bones. So Nell's name is Penelope, Nellie, but she goes by Nell, and Bones' real name is Bradshaw, but Bones is like his code name in the army, and her code name in this new squad that she's being put in that she really hates is Bunny. And honestly, if I was in a group of all guys and they called me Bunny as like the new female recruit in this squad, I would probably kick them all in the balls. Like, that would piss me off so much. She is not happy about this decision, but she has no choice. So unfortunately, she's just trying to intimidate the guys and prove herself and her worth in this squad. Now, like I said on the back, she was part of the riot squad, but 2 years ago in a mission, everyone except her died. Why was she the only one that didn't die? Is there like a secret that she's holding, or is it just like a coincidence? Like, I would love to know. And then Bones, or Bradshaw, is love interest that she had a one-night stand with the night before she actually goes and like joins the squad, like day one of joining the squad, and he definitely is quiet, broody, but you can also tell in their first interaction that like he likes her a lot. Like, this is dark romance. I know that there's a big content warning list at the beginning of this book, but like even in the first meeting, he is very broody, but he's also like obsessed with her. And like there's one point, and this isn't really a spoiler, it happens on like page 20, but like she tells him to leave, and then he's like, "I never felt rejected before. I don't like this. I don't want to leave." Like, which is kind of funny. So like, hopefully he's the kind of dark romance love interest that I like, in that he's broody, grumpy, like doesn't talk about his emotions unless you pry out of him, but at the same time has those emotions and truly feels just deep down. You have to like unlock that in her emotions. That's my favorite type of like dark romance love interest. What I don't like is when they're just dicks for no reason. So we will see where he lands on that spectrum. Hopefully I love this. It's very quick, and I got the audiobook from Libby. So I think we're gonna be able to finish this very swiftly, which is great. Let's get into Leave Me Behind. Okay, so I do understand that I did not give you guys a halfway update on Leave Me Behind by Cam Moronova, but I actually finished this book this morning, so I wanted to yap about it with you guys. I started it like less than 48 hours ago, probably more like 36 hours ago from like this morning, and I literally inhaled this book. It was such a fast read. I had partially read it through the audiobook, but part of it was just like, it's a short book. It's like 330 pages, and the plot goes by really fast, so I didn't have an update because I literally was just binging this book all day yesterday. But I ended up giving this book 3.5 stars, and I want to talk about like my entire thoughts because obviously you know basically nothing of my opinion on this. So I think I mentioned in a brief summary that this follows a military romance. So we follow Nellie mostly in her point of view, and she is coming from the Riot group, right? But she's joining the I think they're called the Malum group. Yeah, Malum. Riot was the reason that one of their members got killed last year, and she's the only living member of Riot. So they're like, you are very distrustworthy. We don't want you on this squad. And so she spends half the book trying to like prove herself, and then they go on this huge mission together, and then things go wrong. And it's a lot of like, who can you trust in the middle of like an active military zone, in the middle of budding romances and or toxic relationships amongst all of the people in this, not everyone, but people in the squad, things like that. And overall, I thought it was just so addicting. Like, I was nervous going into this because I've heard so many controversial reviews on this book. People, I think I told you this yesterday, people hate this book. Like, people really dislike the plot twists and stuff in this, which after reading, I am a little confused by. Do I love everything about this book? Absolutely not. We'll get into that. But at the same time, like, do I think that it deserves a controversy? I'm not quite sure. Maybe I should like read more on like what people don't like about this book specifically, but I'm like, the plot twist that everyone hated, I'm like, it wasn't even that crazy. Is that just me? It wasn't that crazy. But anyway, pros first. Like I said, so addicting, so easy to binge. The plot itself was very original, I think. And what I like about this specifically, it's the right type of dark romance for me. I've said this before on my channel. I will talk more about this in other videos as well. But when I complain about a dark romance book that I don't enjoy, like Haunting Adeline or God of Malice or something like that, people always comment like, why do you read dark romance if you know that you're not going to like it? Why would you pick up a book that you know you're going to hate? And the thing is, for me, I like a lot of dark romances. I just have a very like thin line between whether it's really good or really bad. And that line for me is usually non-con between the love interests. That is always and will forever be to me like romanticizing SA, and I cannot deal with it. But usually romance books, dark romance books do work for me. It just so happens that that is a plot point that happens way more frequently than I would like to admit. Anyway, this book, however, it had non-con, dub-con in the trigger warnings at the beginning, and so I was very nervous going in because I was like, if there's a scene that happens between our two love interests that in any way, shape, or form seems non-con to me, I will probably hate this book and hate the love interest for doing that to her, or vice versa. It can still be vice versa as well. She can do it to him. I was very happy to see that there was nothing of that sort in this book. I felt like actually the love interest was a lot more emotional than I thought he was going to be when I first picked up the book and read the summary. When you read a character like that, you're like, oh, he's going to be like a bully to her or like super mean. And there are a couple scenes, I'm not gonna lie, where like, he is like very mean, and like there are a couple things towards the beginning of this book and I'm like, wow, that's something, you know, for sure. But I do think that she does retaliate in a way that makes it seem like it's not one-sided, which is that still healthy and non-toxic? No. But as you continue reading the book, there are so many more scenes seeing the main character Bones be much more emotional and like talk about feelings and like go through grief and those kinds of things. And is it like the best depiction of grief I've ever read? Of course not. Absolutely not. But at the same time, it's not what I expected out of him, and it was such a pleasant surprise to be able to get more of an emotional side of the character. In fact, I think he talks about his emotions more than Nellie did, which is interesting. So I liked him as a main character a lot more than I expected to. Is he my top book boyfriend? Absolutely not. He's not even on the top 30 list, like at all. But this entire review is me being like, I expected to absolutely hate this. So the fact that I didn't is a blessing, but it's kind of true. Now, on the topic, talking about like cons, things that I didn't like about this book, the writing was really kind of terrible. In the beginning of this book, it was just very like, okay, nothing to write home about. But towards the end, I was getting very much whiplash with this writing. The author couldn't decide what she wanted our characters to feel. The main love interests, for example, would go between kissing, to hating each other, to fighting other people, to fighting each other, to having sex, to yelling at each other again. And it's like, pick something. And that would all happen within the span of like literally 2 to 3 pages. I'm like, wow, we are whiplashing so fast. Like, I get that you can have very complex emotions about somebody and go back and forth in your brain with things, but like, I need more development on paper. If we're going back and forth between those different, very polar opposite emotions in the span of literally 2 to 3 pages, like, that is not well described at all. It's very whiplashy, and I'm confused as to how I'm supposed to feel about these characters because they don't know what they feel about each other, you know? It was not well executed. Another thing is towards the end of this book, I'm not going to spoil anything, of course, but there are some plot twists that made some characters that we previously thought one thing, now we think another thing, and then by the end of this book, we think a third thing. For two different people I'm thinking of in specific here. And for both of those characters, I'm like, I, as a reader, am still lost if this is a good or bad person. I get that there can be some moral gray area, like a lot of moral gray area, but I think that the way that our main characters went about approaching their opinions on these characters felt once again very whiplashy. It was like, we hate this person on page 300 and then we are best friends on page 305. I'm like, I am confused. There is no development, there is no gradual change, there's no character arc. It's literally just flip-flopping back and forth multiple times, and I'm very, very lost. So I didn't like the ending of this book in that way. I thought that it was very confusing and not very well explained to the reader. But again, like overall, the book was very fun. I liked the romance more than I thought I was going to. This is a really good dark romance, I feel. And I think that it's so easy to binge. I read it in literally less than 2 days. And it's not very long, like I said, but I read it so fast. So 3.5 stars for Leave Me Behind. Not an absolute favorite book of all time, of course not, but it was definitely really enjoyable. Good book to start out the vlog with. Now, the next book I'm actually going to take a very big derail from this. We're still reading contemporary romance, but we're not going to be reading dark romance, or I guess like dark military romance. This is still kind of dark, but in a different way. It's more dark and emotional. And by that I mean, I want to do a reread of Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan. I don't have this book physically, although I probably should buy it because I really, really loved this book when I read it the first time, and I really enjoy Kennedy Ryan in general. But this is a book that I read a couple of years ago, and it's a romance story about someone who is experiencing domestic violence and domestic abuse in her current relationship, and it's a story of her trying to escape that and find happiness elsewhere, and there's a romance outside of that relationship. It's not that couple that's being romanticized, it's something else. I think that this book was written so well, so beautifully, so emotionally, but it's been years since I read it for the first time, and I was debating like what I want to read next. You know, I was looking at my physical TBR shelf, like what's on my shelf that I want to read, and nothing's really calling to me at this exact moment, but for some reason when I thought of a book that I maybe wanted to read on my Kindle, I was like, oh my gosh, I should reread Long Shot. Kennedy Ryan is literally such a good author. I love her, and I also love reading specifically like Black authors during February. Although I'm reading this, technically it's still January. At the time I'm recording this, it will be February very shortly, and that's when you guys will see this video. But of course, Black History Month, I'd love to support my Black authors. So yeah, Kennedy Ryan, I think would be a good choice for our next book. How are we? Happy Wednesday. I need to make lunch. I'm gonna make a grilled cheese. So while I'm talking to you, I'm gonna be cooking, okay? It's currently day 3 of classes being canceled because we've had snow since Saturday in Dallas, which is very out of the ordinary. Nobody here knows how to deal with snow and ice, so they literally just have been trying to clear the roads, I think, but it's not very successful. So because of that, class has just literally been canceled, and I've been stuck in my house since Saturday morning, well, Friday night, Saturday morning. We're almost going on, this is day 5, almost day 6, that I have literally not left my house, and I'm here alone. I'm going a little bit stir crazy, I'm not gonna lie. I have been vlogging this entire weekend. I don't think I've really like verbalized this whole situation besides like showing you a couple like fun snow clips, but I'm running out of food. Like I need to get groceries. We will have class tomorrow, so I'm gonna go tomorrow after class, or maybe before, and get groceries so I can literally cook dinner tomorrow, but I'm on like my last slices of bread and cheese for my little grilled cheese sandwiches. I'm out of ham, running out of eggs. Like I'm actually fine, don't worry. I'm just being a complainer because I will get groceries tomorrow, but it's been the point where like they need to clear these roads now because I have things to do. Anyway, what I have been doing between yesterday talking to you and today, actually I talked to you 2 days ago, I believe, when I finished Leave Me Behind, but I have been reading Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan. I think I'm actually 2/3 of the way through this because I was filming for my bullet journaling channel yesterday, and the entire time I was filming, I was on my computer listening to an audiobook. So I was listening to this, and it's going so well. It's going so well. So I don't know if I really explained this book to you very much whenever I brought it up last time in the vlog. It's an emotional book. Kennedy Ryan always writes emotional books, and the main topic and content warning with this one is that it deals with domestic abuse abuse, domestic violence, and things like that, which is definitely a very sensitive topic that if you are any at all sensitive to that or like get triggered by that, do not pick up this book, because I read it physically when I read it a couple years ago, and it was definitely a rough one, but then listening to the audiobook made it worse yesterday, I'm not gonna lie. Part of me already knew it was coming, so I was a little more prepared for it, but like listening to the audiobook is a harrowing experience. So I don't know if I recommend that exactly, especially for a couple of those chapters in the middle of the book there. But overall, the book does have a happy ending, and there are some like joys and wins, but it is, you know, a bit of a struggle to get to that point. But anyway, we follow our main character, Iris, who is a young recent graduate who wants to get into sports marketing. And she's at a bar one night and she meets this guy named August West. And August is a NBA, I don't want to say NBA star because I think he's a rookie, but like he's really good at basketball and everyone knows his name, and she knows him when she meets him because she watches a lot of games. She's very much up to date with that kind of stuff. So she knows him immediately. She's just a stranger to him, but they have a really nice conversation at the bar and they connect over the fact that they're both mixed race, which I'm mixed race. So I appreciate their conversation about that because they were talking about like having trouble finding like people that they belong with or finding like a sense of place, a sense of purpose, because people have always told them they're either too black or too white, etc., which is something that I've definitely like heard before or could potentially like relate to. But at the end of the night, they're about to leave and August is like, he's very hard on his sleeve, like very outwardly emotional, not like a crybaby kind of way, but I mean like he will tell her that he's very much into her. And so he's like, hey, can I get your number? Like I want to see you again. And she's like, I hate to break this to you, babe. She didn't say babe, I said babe, but she's like, I have a boyfriend. I'm not currently single. So the boyfriend that she's referencing, his name is Caleb, and Caleb is a player that August knows. He's also a basketball player. And they have been rivals for a long time and they don't like each other at all. I'm not talking about like heated rivalry rivals where they're like kind of rivals, but they have like sexual tension. I'm talking like these two guys hate each other. And basically she's off limits, but he knows deep down that she is still the one for him. Now the problem is that Iris and Caleb have a very iffy relationship. We start out the book with him being kind of controlling over her. She's like half black, right? But he wants her to straighten her hair and be more like white leaning because he's a white guy. And he wants her to wear outfits that make her feel more uncomfortable, like a short little skirt or something like that versus like more comfortable loungewear. He's very big on the I will protect, I will provide, you need to stay at home and basically have my children. And she is very much wanting to be self-sufficient, wanting to get a job that does like sports marketing, but then something comes up that kind of throws everything out of whack. I'm not going to, actually, I will say it because I think it is an important like trigger warning. If you don't want to hear it, because it is a spoiler, I suppose, for the first like 20%, skip to this timestamp. It'll literally be like 2 seconds of me talking. So skip. Ready? Okay, there is a surprise pregnancy trope in this book. She does get pregnant, and that is the reason why she can't go out and fulfill her dreams that she wanted to at the beginning of this book, okay? Spoilers over. So suffice it to say that she is in a very difficult predicament and she doesn't get the opportunity that she wanted to. And we basically follow her trying to deal with this relationship that slowly becomes more verbally abusive and then becomes physically abusive. And it's very scary. It's very scary and very dangerous. And I appreciate that Kennedy Ryan wrote a book like this because she said in her author's note that she put a lot of like research into this and talked to real like domestic abuse survivors. But of course, it's never an easy thing to read about, talk about, discuss. I just think it's important to be out there. I have loved Kennedy Ryan's work. I have read this by her before. I've read Blockshot, which is also in the same series. I've read her Grip series as well, which is more like shorter novellas. And I think that she just does her take on romance in such a beautiful way because it is still romantic and beautiful and we have those scenes. There's also a lot of emphasis on like the emotion and the hardships that come in a lot of relationships, a lot of people's lives. It's very realistic, I'll say that. And she talks about very like modern topics, prevalent issues in her books. She doesn't shy away from that from my experience of reading her work. And I really appreciate that. I really do. Got my grilled cheese, got my smoothie. Such a simple like baby kid lunch. But again, I am scrambling for ingredients at this point to make myself food. Again, I haven't quite finished Longshot yet. I know it's gonna happen mostly because I read the book before again, but I still am gonna like reserve all my final thoughts and final rating for the very end when I actually finish this book, which will hopefully either be tonight or tomorrow morning. But I do just wanna say, because I've been thinking about this a lot recently and I feel like I should mention it in a vlog, is I kind of wanna change the way that I'm rating books going forward in 2026. I feel like when I look back at my reads in 2025, number one, I was reading a lot of books because I feel like I had to read them, not because I actually wanted to read them. And so I'm trying to prioritize this year, like only reading books that I actually feel drawn to. I want to find books that are, obviously I want to find 5 stars. That's like the goal of reading opportunities to find amazing books that resonate with you. But I feel like a couple of the books that I read last year, I liked them a lot, but I gave them a 5-star rating because I feel like that they deserved that rating, or I hadn't had a 5-star in a while. So I thought that maybe I should give this one a 5-star because what am I hesitating for kind of thing. But really, so many of those books, not so many, but a couple of the books I gave 5 stars last year, I would at this point in my life probably bring down to like a 4.5, because I'm like, truly and honestly, a 5-star is a feeling. And you know that feeling if you get that feeling. Like, it's a gut feeling. It's like something is absolutely insane, basically perfection, and you could genuinely think of no way to improve the book. You read it and from almost page 1, you just know that it's a 5-star. Like one of those books, you know, it's a different category from the books that I'm like, this was really, really good. I guess I should give it a 5-star, you know, because it's just two different things. And obviously all the books that I gave 5 stars last year, I still adore. I still highly, highly recommend all of them, because I feel like I'm generally like a pretty picky writer, you know. I wouldn't give it a 5-star if I didn't think it was incredible. But if I don't get that gut feeling, which is like a different level past incredible, then I don't think I should give it 5 stars. So with that in mind, I'm thinking to myself, this year, Sophie, you need to be strict with your ratings. I want to make sure I'm reserving my 5-star ratings for the ones that genuinely gut punch feel like a 5-star to me, you know. Like in my experience, for example, Alchemized or Throne of Glass, like two of my absolute favorite, Serpent on the Wings of Night, you know, those books that are like, this is pretty much perfection. My entire life is rocked by this kind of thing. Also, I'd put in that category Binding 13, but specifically the books about Joey and Aoife. Like those books like are just on another level of romance for me. Then I also bite the question to myself, I am so much more likely to give a fantasy book a 5-star than a contemporary book, because I feel like when there's so much more depth to like world building and magic systems and politics and stuff like that. Not that contemporary books or contemporary romance can't have politics, but you know what I mean? There's just another layer, another oomph to fantasy that I just know is my favorite genre because of that. And so I feel like I'm more likely to give a fantasy book a higher rating than a contemporary book. I'm like, do I give a book like contemporary romance that I really, really love? Like Play Along, for example, from last year. Love that book. It's so good. One of the best contemporary romances out there, in my opinion. And I gave it 5 stars at the time. And at the end of the year, I kept it at my 5-star rating for the sake of my videos that I was filming. But now I'm like, if I really think about it, it's a 4.5. Because it's such a good book. It's so good. It's a perfect romance in my opinion. But I didn't get that feeling that it deserved that 5-star mark. Does that make sense? So I think that even though I'm more likely to give more fantasy books a 5-star than I am to give a contemporary romance, it's because I get that gut feeling more often with a fantasy book than I do with a contemporary romance. All of that being said, this is like a little bit of a rant and ramble, I know, but I'm trying to say here, if my ratings this year become more strict and I really don't have many 5 stars, I'm going to try to prioritize books that I think I will rate 5 stars, because there's no reason to put them off for, you know, just the sake of putting them off if I think I'm gonna really, really love them. But I will literally only give a book 5 stars if I truly, truly feel it. I promise you that this year, okay? If there's a 5-star in my rating this year, it's because it's literally perfection, a masterpiece, an absolute masterpiece. But with that also being said, if I give anything a 3-star or above, I still highly recommend it. Like I gave Leave Me Behind, for example, 3.5 stars. You guys know that I inhaled that book. It was so good, so much fun, much better than I expected. And so I thought it was definitely something that I can recommend to people in the future, but it's still gonna stay at that 3.5-star rating, not because it's bad, but because in comparison to my 5 stars, it needs to have that like amount of deductions, if that makes sense. So yeah, I guess that's just like me saying that I want to be more strict with my 5 stars and all of my ratings going forward. But if it's a 3 or above, it's good. If I don't like it, I will give it like a 2-star or 2.5 and below. Okay? Okay. Glad we had this chat. I'm gonna go and eat my lunch now, and I'll update you when I finish Long Shot. I just filmed this entire clip and then looked down and my microphone was off. So we're gonna do it again. Hi, hello, it's Sunday. It's been a couple days since I've spoken on this vlog. And this weekend was it was crazy because Friday and Saturday were both hockey weekends or hockey days. I work with the hockey team at university. SMU played UT and beat them both times. It was beautiful. It was so beautiful. The first time we had such a comeback, and then last night it was just a clean sweep. It was glorious. I had the best time. We're in bed now and we're just getting cozy, and I do have work to do later, but I wanted to talk to you guys first. Talk about the book that I finished a couple days ago, which obviously is Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan. I think the last thing that I was saying about this book was that I was like, what, 60%, something like that? And I was talking about my changing rating system, which I still stand by. I still stand by that. I bring it up obviously because this book is a reread for me, and the first time when I read it, I gave it 5 stars, and on the reread, I'm sticking with a 4.5. So still an incredible rating. Like, that's a 9 out of 10. Like, this book was so good. An amazing romance, and honestly more than a romance, more like venturing into general fiction, women's fiction, as well as romance in this book. But it didn't give me that 5-star like gut feeling, you know, that I want to be more particular about. It's not the same level for me as Empire the Vampire. That being said though, this is still an incredible book, and I highly encourage you to read it if you don't mind the trigger warnings, because they really are kind of intense. But again, this book follows Iris and her whole situation, and I think talking about the second half of this book specifically, like the second half of the book is the way up. You know, on the first half we are going downhill, and that's where like most of the tragic stuff really happens. But on the second half of the book, we're like climbing the mountain back up, but there's like little divots before we kind of get to the final happily ever after ending kind of thing. And I think that it's interesting that Kennedy Ryan didn't write this entire book about part 1. Like, she had part 2 take the other like half of the book. And I think it's really smart, because in a real situation, if you have something like this, like domestic violence, domestic abuse, sexual assault, like if you're a survivor or something like that, your life just doesn't immediately like get 100% better the minute that you are escaping that situation. There is so much more that happens after that experience. It's obviously going to change you for the rest of your entire life. So like the fact that Kennedy Ryan spent the time to talk about the real struggles that Iris goes through post her whole situation in the second half of this book makes it even more realistic to me. And I love that Kennedy Ryan doesn't shy away from real topics, real situations, real experiences in her book, because it makes them feel obviously like they're real experiences. People all over the world, women specifically, are in situations like this, absolutely, and it's terribly depressing and it's so sad, but like it's also so true. And so this book can honestly not be a reference, that's the wrong word, but it's just like this book is a piece of media about a situation that many people can experience, can relate to, they can understand Iris. And I'm sure that this book is a gift for them, because it's just written words about something that they experienced and may be hard to express, but maybe Kennedy Ryan can write it in a way that feels relatable, potentially. For me, I can't really speak on that, yes or no, because I haven't experienced anything like that, thank God. But like, I do think that even just for me, this book is very powerful, that this book has so many like really empowering chapters in it, despite all of the negative situations that are going on. And overall, just a really strong romance. August, who is Iris's like main love interest, August is very rich. He's like a multi-million-dollar basketball player, right? And so the disparity between his income and Iris, who is a single mom trying to make her way in the world, like income gap, huge. Privilege gap, also huge. And so there are some disagreements about that in the second half of this book, and I really appreciated that, because it's very realistic. Like, we're not writing a romance book where the minute that something good happens, we're holding hands and skipping into the sunset. You know, like there's actual like real life experiences written in here, and I appreciate that very much. So yeah, this book is honestly checking every box that a romance / maybe women's fiction book really should. Very occasionally, Kennedy Ryan's writing can get a little bit heavy on the cringe, but it's one of those where the emotional quote may seem like really cringy if it was on like a Pinterest board or something like that, but in the context of what's happening, I get it. You know, I understand it, and I don't mind it as much, because it does hit harder when you have all the context surrounding it that this book gives. So yeah, it didn't give me that 5-star gut feeling. Again, I'm trying to be very particular about that, but this was an incredible read. And on the reread, I just think it deserves a 4.5 star. And I think that if you want to read it, if you can read something as serious as this, it's something that I think everyone should experience if they can mentally, because it really is just, it's I think one of Kennedy Ryan's best work in my humble opinion. So that's that on long shot. I'm very happy that I reread it though. I think it was definitely deserving of a refresh for me. Not fun, but it was a good revisit, you know? Before we go, I did want to talk about a little bit of a book unhaul. In Bookmas, I did an entire video that was like a book haul / unhaul, kind of prepare for the new year, but I was in Houston for that. And so I had picked out books specifically that I wanted to sell and get rid of, and I already sold a couple of them. But I still have a few left over that are still up on my Pango Books. And also when I came back to Dallas, I added a couple more to my list that I just like decided to take off my shelf. So I just want to like show you them so that you're aware that they're up on my Pango Books as of the day that this video is being released. If you have never heard of Pango Books before, by the way, it is an app where you can buy and sell secondhand books. I personally have bought and sold many secondhand books on that app. It's so useful for book lovers because you can buy really good quality books so much cheaper. It's so nice. I really love it. Pango, they're not sponsoring me, but if you guys are watching this, please sponsor me. We can work together on something because I love your app so much. But anyway, I just want to show you very briefly what all of these books are that I have up on my store page. So we have Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. This is the first book in her Dreamland Billionaire, Lakefront Billionaire series. I want to unhaul it, so there's number 1. We also have On Wings of Blood by Briar Bolin. This is a fantasy book that I read last year. This is actually the indie edition because the cover is like the indie cover. This series has been picked up by Trad Publishing, so the new covers are slightly different, and I think that the indie cover personally is a lot prettier. So if you want the original covers, then this will be up on my store. We also have Throne of the Fallen. This is a hardback edition of this book. Those I think you've all seen before in my previous unhaul. These next 2 are new editions that I'm just going to be getting rid of. The first of which is For the Throne by Hannah Whitten. This is the sequel to For the Wolf by the same author. I personally love For the Wolf, but this one I just could not get into. I tried. I don't know if I put it in a vlog or not recently. I think like end of last year I tried to get into this, but I don't know if I cut that out. No, I did put that in my the vlog where I read Magnolia Parks 3. Anyway, long story short, could not really get into this. I saw DNF'd and I just ended up not wanting to read it at all, so it's going to be getting unhauled. But it has deckled edges, which I love deckled edges, and overall I know someone's going to love this. So if you're interested in this, that'll be up. And then very lastly, probably the most controversial one on this list, but I'm not going to justify myself here when I'm saying I'm going to get rid of One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. I feel that I would just rather dive into her Night and the Moth duet instead of this one, and I've had this one for like a year and a half and I've never had the inkling to pick it up. So I'm like, I've been wanting to read this duology before I read Rachel Gillig's newer stuff, but then I'm like, if I don't really want to read this, maybe I just jump into Rachel Gillig. Maybe I just like sell this one and then use that money to buy myself the new copy of A Night and the Moth and be prepared for the release of Knave and the Moon this fall. But everybody I know loves this book. So like if you love this book or if you want to read it, it'll be up there as well. So those are the 5 books that are going to be on my Pango. I'll have it linked in the description box below if you want to go check it out, but obviously first come first serve because I only have 1 copy of every book evidently. Let's cut to future me and we will read the next and final book for today's vlog. The title of this video is definitely a lie at this point because it has taken me over a week to film this video of reading romance, but I've actually been in the middle of 2 separate books on my Kindle that I want to talk to you guys about to finish out today's vlog, and then I have a book haul. In fact, let's do that first. Some of you guys just saw me unbox this first book, which is Daisy Hates The Great Undoing by Jessa Hastings. I got this book for $10 secondhand on Pango Books, which is absolutely glorious. Literally the exact same platform that I was doing my unhaul earlier in this vlog. So doing some unhauls and doing some hauls, kind of evening it out. But this is the UK edition, and so it's so much prettier in my opinion than the US editions of this series, which is why I've been collecting the UK editions, and getting it for $10 secondhand is an incredible steal. So thank you so much to Pango. Again, they're not sponsoring this video, but like I love their platform and the people who sell on there. Obviously there's going to be some like twists and turns that I'm not expecting in this, so we will have to see. However, it's not the book that I'm reading in today's video. I really want to read this at some point, but I don't feel like drawn to it right now, and my mood reading, it's being so annoying recently because like the reason that this video is taking me a little bit longer to film than I anticipated is because for the past like 4 days I haven't been reading anything because I went through, I don't want to call it book slumping, but I just went through a period where I just didn't want to read anything. And when I wanted to pick something up, it wasn't this. So I want to read this definitely, but it will have to be in another vlog later this year. Now the other book that I just today grabbed from Half Price Books, I'm so excited about, and it's actually a subscriber recommended book. I'm trying to get the sticker off of it because I hate when there's stickers on the cover of books. But whenever I announced my diversity reading challenge on Storygraph, I had someone recommend this to me and I knew immediately that I wanted to read it. So that book is Hell Followed With Us by, who's the author? Andrew Joseph White. Not only is the cover of this absolutely stunning, I think it's so beautiful and artistic, the synopsis is also incredibly intriguing to me. So the synopsis says, 16-year-old trans boy Benji is on the run from the cult that raised him, the fundamentalist sect that unleashed Armageddon and decimated the world's population. I'm sorry? Like, that's an insane first sentence. Desperately, he searches for a place where the cult can't get their hands on him, or more importantly, on the deadly bioweapon condition they infected him with. Literally, come on, that sounds incredible. The ratings for this are all so good. I think there's also a little bit of a romance in here, and it's YA, but it's one of those YA books that I feel like I might be able to like really connect with. I've been trying to find YA books that I still really love, even though a lot of YA books recently, like This Woman Kingdom or Powerless, have just pissed me off, but like there are some that I really connect with and really just like hit me in my feels, and I think that this book may fit that category, so we will have to see. I need to read this like so soon. I'm so hyped for this. But those are the two books that I've gotten and acquired recently. Now, as far as the books that I have been currently reading for this vlog and not recording because I'm bad at vlogging apparently, this vlog is all over the place, but the first book is Green Ravens, which is a book that I saw on Libro FM, and I've been listening to the audiobook over there. It's also on Kindle Unlimited if you're interested in reading it. This book follows our main characters Sawyer and Oakley, and they are both Navy, I think Navy chiefs, captains in the Navy, and they're on like two different squads, but they both go on this mission together, and everybody in their squad perils except for the two of them. One helps save the other, and they basically are now lost in, I think it's the Amazon rainforest. So they're like traipsing through the forest trying not to die, and then they come across this encampment, and they basically want to like contact like their people, someone come rescue them, but they get trapped and basically turned into biomedical weapons. They go through this like transformation process, drugging thing, and now they're like weapons of mass destruction for the people who own this like encampment to illegally wield. So I guess the story is that they have to like break out of this situation and survive together, and also there's a romance between the two of them. Very random, very wild, very random, and I was just very intrigued by the synopsis of this. Now I am currently like 40% of the way through this book, so I can kind of tell you my thoughts. I will just say that everything I just told you is on the back of the book, like it is written in the synopsis, but it also takes you a little bit to get to that point. So the first like 25%, you're almost waiting for what you know is going to happen because it says it on the back of the book. But we do spend a little time with the characters like before they get essentially not kidnapped but like captured, I guess, and we get to like learn more about them and like see a little bit of their relationship. My issue with this book so far is that it's not going deep enough in anything. Like it's all very telly, very on the surface. All the chapters are quite short, everything is very like quick because the book itself is very short, but it means that, for example, at the beginning of this book we're trying to like build a little bit of a romance between Oakley and Sawyer and like kind of get a little connection going before like things happen later on that like changes the trajectory of the story. And literally they will end scenes when they're like having like a deep conversation. They'll just cut the scene off and they'll fade to black, or it'll just like go to the next chapter. I'm like, why aren't we reading that? Don't cut it off before like we actually see their connection, because then we don't have any faith in their romance, or we don't like feel anything for the characters. It just seems like they're not giving us enough context for anything. I want more of their backstories. I want more of their conversations. I want more of the like tension. It's a little bit insta-lovey, but at the same time like we're not really seeing much. It's just like they'll cut the scenes off too early. So I'm trying to say, like, I'm not like trying to get a million different like crazy intense scenes here. I'm just saying that like if we're gonna have them have a deep conversation, let's finish the conversation maybe before we like cut it off too early. It just feels like we're being too choppy. We're being too heavy-handed with our editing here, and I would love to see more of their connection. I have high hopes for it. That's a lie, actually. I don't have high hopes for it at this point. I hope that it gets better, but it's not going to be a phenomenal read for me because the first 40% has kind of gone downhill because I'm just like missing so much of their connection. Like, we are 40% of the way through this book. I know almost nothing about either of them, and I don't feel any romance. I'm just being told that they like each other, you know? So anyway, that's one book. I'm gonna read it for this video because it is a romance, but whatever. Also, I'm realizing that every single book in today's video is gonna be like kind of on like the dark and emotional side, because the other book that I'm reading right now on my Kindle is Voracious by, is it Lee Rivers or someone else? I may be like missing up the names here. This is the second book in the Insatiable series, and this is one book on my February TBR. So we're actually making progress on that TBR today, along with Leave Me Behind, I suppose, is also in the TBR. But this book is our second book in the trilogy. We follow Stacy and Cade, and we pick up literally the second that book one ends, we pick up book two. Voracious so far is so sad. So sad. Everyone loves this series. I think this dark romance series is one of the best, truly, because the relationship itself between Cade and Stacy is so beautiful. I love their connection. I love their flashbacks of them younger and then also when they're older. The part that makes the story very dark, and it is very dark, watch trigger warnings with this one, similar to Longshot, is that there is a lot of external problems. Like, there's elements of sexual assault in this book. There's slavery is a very intense term, but basically like Kate is being like managed and controlled by this like other couple that like is blackmailing him essentially to do their bidding. And there are just so many like really sad topics and sad themes in this one that I forgot about when I picked it up the first time. Like, I think it was last night that I started reading it, and I was just like, wow, I forgot about all this. So it's definitely a hard read, makes me sick to my stomach to read, but I think it's going to be really good nevertheless, because it's, again, the romance itself is so strong in this, and I just think that it's written very fast-paced, but also like enough to give you all the emotions that you need. Like, the way that this book is paced is what Green Ravens is missing, in my opinion. But yeah, I think this will be really, really good. I hope so deeply that they have a happy ending at the end of this book, but because there is still one more book in the trilogy, I fear it may just be a middle book syndrome of devastation until we get to book 3, and hopefully by then we'll have a happy ending. I think I've been told that there is a happy ending in this series, but I don't know if it happens in this book. Anyway, I'm just hoping for a moment of brevity, a moment of happiness for these characters. They really, really deserve it, but I don't know if Leaververse is going to take me up on that request exactly, so I will keep you updated. That is the goal for this weekend. Let's hopefully finish 2 books so we can end out today's vlog together. I've definitely already worn this shirt in this video, but like I mentioned a couple clips ago, this video has taken way longer than a week. So I swear this is washed, okay? Because this video has taken a while, I do have yet another book haul, or kind of a haul. I got my Aardvark Book Club Box of the Month for February, and this is not a sponsored collaboration, but I did want to chat about this real quick because I'm so excited about this book and the whole box situation. I think I actually already showed you, I did film a TikTok for it yesterday, but the book that I decided to put on my list is Burned Down Master's House by, who is it, Clay Kane. This book is wildly out of my comfort zone, like completely out of my comfort zone. But I first got introduced to this book by seeing the audiobook on Libro FM a couple of weeks ago, and I decided, you know what, I'll add it to my library, I'll watch it later, or I'll listen to it later. And then I saw that it was one of the Aardvark picks, and I was like, well, I could have a trophy for my audiobook, you know, and I eventually do read it. I also didn't know that it was really this thin. It's only like 200 and something pages, but I honestly think that's more of a good thing because the conflict or the story in this book is, like, it sounds so depressing and so heartbreaking, but hopefully empowering is what I'm thinking. So let me read you the synopsis real quick. It says, amid the smoke and turmoil of a divided nation, another fire stirs, one lit by the enslaved. Their rebellions are quiet at times, explosive at others, but never mere resistance. This is outright opposition. When the flames come, justice will rise with them. Luke, quick-witted and perspective, and Henri, I don't know why I said his name with a French accent, maybe because it has an I at the end. It could be Henry, too. Forge an unbreakable bond at a Virginia plantation called Magnolia Row. Both seek escape from imaginable cruelty. And sure as the fires of hell, they will leave their mark, sparking future uprisings and rebels. Like Josephine, a young and observant girl who wields silence as her greatest weapon. She listens, watches, waits. Her vow is clear. They're going to remember us. Then there is Charity Butler, who has successfully fought for her freedom but battles against a deeply unjust system and a future abolitionist. Lastly, Nathaniel, a black enslaver whose existence disturbs the very nature of bondage. His rule is both fragile and contradictory, a symbol of bravery and retribution within the system of slavery. Inspired by the true stories of the profoundly courageous men and women who dared to fight back, Burned Down Master's House is a singular tour de force of a novel, breathtaking in scope, compassion, righteousness, and timely defiance. So this is basically a book about people fighting back against slavery, which is not a lovely, topic, like a fun time to read about, but I was very called to read this book. I saw the audiobook and I was like, this sounds incredibly impactful and incredibly powerful. And as you guys know, I've been trying to read more out of my comfort zone more diversely this year, and this absolutely fits in that list. Not only is it out of my comfort zone as far as emotionally, but it also is checking off boxes off my diversity challenge, which is fantastic. That's my goal of this year. So I really want to read this, but I'm also terrified, but I think it's going to be really good. And it's also not too long, so I won't be devastated for 500 pages, So this is going to be added to my physical TBR shelf. Yeah, kind of a different one for me. Anyway, with that being said, this morning I actually finished the last book for today's video, so I wanted to chat with you guys about my wrap-ups for both Voracious and Green Ravens real quick. And we have range in this video, let me just say. We've read 4 books and they all have very, very different ratings. So let's start with the worst one, and that is Green Ravens. I finished this book a couple days ago, and I'm not gonna lie, the last 50% of this book was indeed a hate read. I was just finishing it to finish it, but I was hating the experience the entire time. This book had such an incredible concept. The idea, the theory of this book was so good. It's these 2 Navy captains have a terrible mission go awry. They get lost in the Amazon forest and they get captured by this group of scientists who do these DNA tests and things to them, rewiring their cells, I guess. And now they have to escape and figure out how to live their lives and also have a romance together. It's the concept is so cool. A little bit of sci-fi, a little bit of contemporary romance, a little bit of horror, body horror maybe. That's what I thought. And actually reading this book, it went downhill so fast. I kind of knew when I talked to you at the halfway point, when I was it's kind of good, but I'm having issues with the writing, in that the writing is very clunky and it's skipping past a lot of things in my opinion. Not only does that still stand true throughout the end of this book, I think it just got worse. This book turned very crudely and grossly animalistic. It's the guys were embedded with DNA of a jaguar or of an eagle or something, and they were half eagle, but they didn't change into eagles. They just had the mindset and the survival instincts of an eagle. I don't know, it was weird. It wasn't well explained, but it was weird. And then they would just speak very animalistically, and they would kind of like Tarzan. It was very Tarzan, I guess is kind of what I'm trying to say. Nothing against Tarzan, as the movie, but it was they would go sleep in trees and fight and fly, but they couldn't fly, but they used flying things. It was just weird. It was not well explained. I hated all the animalistic references. The plot just went off the rails. I am going to spoil this just a little bit. I don't think that you should read it. If you really care, then wait till the next photo of the next book comes up and you can listen to that review instead, but I'm going to spoil just a little bit because I don't think that you should read it. Basically, at the very end of this book, well, in the middle of this book, they're transformed, right? Kind of in the 30% mark, and then they spend to the 50% mark, within the compound. Then they escape, which is very convenient and random, and it's that would never happen in real life. Then they go to this island in the Philippines. Then they train for 2 years to fight with their animalistic abilities. Then they go back, then they try to rescue other people, then it doesn't work, then they go back again, then they rescue everybody, and then they decide to go back to the island, and they go back to regular life. I'm pick something. And it's just so frustrating. Nothing made sense. Everything was very choppy. The writing was terrible. The plot was stupid. The romance was very rushed. It was very lust forward and insta-love at the very beginning, and we never got any development. The second half of this book was just jumping back and forth between the same sex scene over and over and over again, or a fighting scene or a training scene that was just boring, and I just didn't care. And I was so frustrated because again, the concept was so great. It could have been a really good book, but the execution was so terrible, so terrible, that it's a 2-star, and it's my first basically bad book of the entire year. So that's really unfortunate, but at least we now know. I will not be continuing this series at all. Probably will not read anything else by this author. I just don't think that this works for me personally. To each their own, but I don't think that you should read it. It's just simply, in my humble opinion, not a good book. So that's the worst book of the entire video so far. However, this morning, like I said, I also finished Voracious by Lee Rivers. This is the second book in the Insatiable series, and I only have one more book to finish out that trilogy, although there's also a prequel that I could read, but that's a whole other side tangent. This book was also not a fun read, but in a very different way. This book, I realized the past couple of days as I was getting towards the last half of the book, it's not enjoyable, at all. But it's because what's happening to our main characters in this book is actually devastating. This entire book, it's not middle book syndrome, but it's kind of that that lull in between like the big stuff happening in book 1 and then the big climax in book 3, right? So basically, Cade and Stacy is our main couple. Cade is, like I said earlier, I believe I mentioned this in this vlog, he's being controlled by this old other lady. He's being forced to do like killings for her, to sleep with people for her. It's like a whole very terrible thing. Stacy is also in an abusive relationship with a different character who I won't spoil who it is, but it's like a whole different thing. So they're both going through it, and this entire book is basically them going through it. I think they're like literally together in the present timeline for a couple chapters in this book. Like, when by together I mean like physically in the same location. Most of this book is them being apart and going through different struggles separately, or flashbacks to a couple years previous when they were like first falling in love, but also both separately going through their own battles as well. So it's like there were some moments of happiness in this book when like younger Kate and younger Stacy had like a cute moment together, or like when they had very limited time together in the present timeline. But everything external to that in this book, like the other like 250 to 300 pages, it's just sadness. It's just like, I hate that this is happening to them and I can't do anything about it, and it just seems to be getting worse and worse and worse. And I got to the point where I actually think that this book is a teeny bit too long, because I was like, it really just isn't enjoyable, and I just need to get like the book over with, you know? Like, I know that this is going to end in tragedy. I hate this for them. I want them to escape, evidently, but I know that we're not going to get a happy ending until book 3. So I'm like, just get me through this as fast as possible so I can hopefully get to book 3, and hopefully we have some kind of redemption for our characters. So with all that being said, I think I'm landing on a 4-star rating for this book. It just didn't really sit with me as well as book 1 did. Obviously, 4 stars is still an incredible rating. I think the story itself, the romance, the entire plot of this trilogy, it's very sad. There's so many trigger warnings in it, but it's a very well crafted dark romance. The writing is good. The structure is overall good. I just think that it was a little too long, and I just genuinely didn't enjoy like the last half of this book, because it was just like a pit in my gut the entire time. But it's a very different type of disliking a book than, for example, Green Ravens. That one I was hate reading because I despised it. This one I hate the story, but I know that it's like a book that I still want to read, if that makes sense, because I still want to get to the end and I want to know that their story becomes happy at the end of it. So very different like types of difficult books to read, but this one is definitely a 4-star. And I hope that the last book kind of goes back up to a 4.5. Book 1 was a 4.5. This one isn't as good as book 1, but I'm still glad that I read it, and I'm continuing a series that I'm in the middle of, which is very good. So with all that being said, I want to do a quick little wrap about everything that we read this week. A little more than a week, but don't worry about that. The first book was Leave Me Behind, which feels like eons ago, even though it was like literally, I think, a week and a half, maybe almost 2 weeks ago. I don't know. Time is a social construct. I don't remember. This was a 3.5 star. It was a very fun dark romance. I already brought it up in my dark romance video that I posted last week, which if you didn't watch it, go watch it. It was so much fun. But yeah, this was fun. So then we read Longshot, or a reread of Longshot, and gave this one 4.5 stars. Best book that I read the entire video, I think. Just a very overall, not pleasant book to read, but it had its lighter moments. In fact, actually, I read a lot of dark romances this week, actually. And now that I think about it, I need to read some light and fluffy romances. Where are my, like, BK Borisons and Elsie Silvers? Maybe that should be our next vlog or something, because I need to, like, read happier content. Anyway, Longshot. Difficult read, important read, and I just love Kendi Ryan, and this story is just heartbreaking, but it's beautiful, and I really enjoyed my reread. So 4.5 stars for that. Then I read Green Ravens and hated everything about it, so 2 stars. And then I finished the video out with Voracious, which, like I said, is a 4-star. Really terrible to read. Probably the one that like hurts me in my gut the most out of everything I read this entire video, because it's just like stomach churning. Watch triggers, but at the same time, it's a 4-star. A deeply impactful dark romance. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you so much for being here. Next week I have a very, very fun vlog planned, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And if you've yet to watch my dark romance video, I will link it right here for you on the screen.